Welcome to Stamps Old World UK, your ultimate destination for the fascinating world of historical postage stamps, rare finds, and timeless treasures. Today, we delve deep into the intriguing market of collectible stamps and explore how much value certain vintage stamps hold in today's dollar-based market. Whether you're a seasoned collector or someone just starting their stamp journey, this video will provide valuable insights into pricing, appraisal, and what makes a stamp worth thousands or just a few cents. Let's begin with one of the most iconic and intriguing U.S. stamps ever issued, the half-cent Nathan Hale stamp. First released in 1925, this stamp features a striking image of American Revolutionary War hero Nathan Hale. With its classic brown tone and distinct 1/2 cent denomination, it was primarily used for bulk mail or newspaper distribution. While that may sound insignificant today, the stamp holds surprising value depending on its condition, perforation, and historical context. In mint condition with gum intact and well-centered design, this particular stamp can fetch anywhere from $5 to $30 on the collector's market. But rarer print variations, plate flaws, or unique cancellations can boost the price even higher, with some specimens being sold for over $100 at online auctions and philatelic exhibitions. Now let's talk about what determines a stamp's value in today's world. The first key factor is condition. This includes centering, perforation, color brightness, and the state of the gum on the back. A stamp that is perfectly centered with intact perforations and original gum will always be valued much higher than one that's faded, torn, or heavily canceled. Collectors pay a premium for mint condition stamps, especially those from limited editions or early printings. The second major factor is rarity. A common stamp that was printed in the millions may hold sentimental or historical value, but from an investment perspective, it might only be worth a few cents. In contrast, stamps that were printed in limited quantities or that contain errors, like inverted centers, double prints, or missing colors, can be worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. Another important aspect is demand. Some stamps are always in high demand due to their beauty, historical relevance, or the popularity of the figure they feature. For example, stamps showcasing U.S. presidents like George Washington or Abraham Lincoln, or British royalty such as Queen Victoria or King George VI, continue to attract global interest. Similarly, stamps featuring significant moments like the moon landing, the Titanic, or national independence anniversaries can command higher market value due to their emotional and cultural significance. Now, let's take a quick tour through the current stamp market as of 2025. With renewed global interest in tangible collectibles and alternative investments, the stamp market has seen a surge in both online and auction-based sales. Rare British, American, and European stamps from the 1800s to early 1900s are in particularly high demand. For example, a used penny black from 1840 in fine condition recently sold for over $5,000. A rare misprint of the 1918 U.S. inverted Jenny fetched over $1.3 million in a private auction. And get this, even common stamps like the 3-cent George Washington issue, if found with an error or in pristine condition, can be valued between $50 and $300 depending on the year and condition. So where can you check the market value of your stamps? Reliable sources include websites like eBay, HipStamp, and Delcamp, where thousands of stamps are listed for sale or auction every day. Specialized auction houses like Heritage Auctions or Spink offer professional appraisal and host high-end sales where stamps can reach record-breaking prices. You can also use stamp catalogs such as the Scott Catalog, Stanley Gibbons, or Michel to get an estimated retail value. Although remember that catalog prices often reflect ideal conditions and may not represent actual sale prices in the market. If you're wondering how to start valuing your own stamp collection, here are a few tips. First, organize your stamps by country and era. Use a magnifying glass to inspect fine details like watermarks, print errors, or unique postmarks. Second, consult a modern stamp catalog to cross-reference each item. Finally, try posting clear photos of your stamps in online forums or Facebook groups dedicated to stamp collectors. Many experienced philatelists are happy to provide feedback or even offers for your stamps. Let's come back to our featured stamp, the Nathan Hale half-cent. While it may not make headlines at Sotheby's, it's a beautiful representation of early 20th century U.S. postage design. With millions printed, its basic value may be modest, but don't dismiss it too quickly. If yours is from a rare printing plate, features unusual color variations, or carries historical postmarks, like those from military bases or overseas, then you might just be sitting on a hidden gem. As with all collectibles, value is not always just about money, it's also about history, preservation, and the stories behind each piece. In conclusion, the stamp collecting market remains alive and well, with countless treasures still waiting to be discovered in old albums, attic boxes, and inherited collections. Whether your stamp is worth a dime or $1,000, its true value lies in its ability to connect us with the past. For those who are patient, passionate, and observant, stamp collecting is not only a fascinating hobby but a potentially profitable one too. And remember, every time you hold a stamp, you're holding a small piece of art, history, and global connection. Next up, the financial and historical value of classic U.S. stamps in today's market, and what makes a simple piece of paper rise from just a few cents to thousands of dollars. In this episode, we will be diving deep into two timeless U.S. postage classics, the 1/2 cent Nathan Hale stamp and the 2-cent George Washington red stamp. Both of these stamps were once used in everyday life for common postage purposes, but in today's stamp collecting market, their potential worth depends heavily on rarity, condition, and historical context. Let's begin with the 1/2 cent Nathan Hale stamp. First issued in 1925, this brown-toned classic honors a young American Revolutionary War hero who famously said, "I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country." The portrait featured on the stamp is bold, simple, and powerful, and it was mostly used for mailing newspapers or other bulk mail. Millions were printed, but that doesn't mean every Nathan Hale stamp is worthless. Far from it. The value of this stamp in 2025 varies widely depending on its condition, plate numbers, and any rare print variations. A common used example may be worth only $1 or $2, but a well-centered, mint-condition stamp with original gum and no hinge marks could fetch $15 to $40, and sometimes more. Some collectors have paid upwards of $100 for pristine examples with desirable plate numbers or rare cancellations. In specialized auctions, examples with proofing errors or rare overprints have gone even higher. What makes this stamp particularly attractive to collectors is its clean and symmetrical design, deep historical significance, and the fact that it comes from an era when stamp printing was still largely manual, leaving room for collectible variations and errors. Now, let's move on to the second featured stamp in this video, the bright red 2-cent George Washington stamp. This is one of the most iconic stamps in U.S. postal history, and several variations were released between the late 1800s and early 1900s, including the extremely well-known Washington Shield series. The specific 2-cent red Washington stamp is often thought of as common due to the enormous number produced, but within those print runs are many types that can be incredibly valuable today. From differences in watermarks and paper types to color shade variations and perforation measurements, a tiny detail can mean the difference between a 50-cent stamp and a $5,000 rarity. One particular version of the 2-cent Washington, known as Scott No. 519, is extremely rare and highly prized, with values ranging into the thousands for a certified, mint-condition example. Most standard collectors, however, will find more common versions, which in good mint condition might still bring in $10 to $75, depending on the centering, gum quality, and whether it was hinged or unhinged. But let's not underestimate the power of a cancellation mark either. If your George Washington stamp has a clean, bold, circular cancellation from a rare post office, or one that marks a specific historical event like the first flight airmail or an overseas military base, that can significantly raise its value among specialized collectors. This is especially true in today's market, where thematic collecting, such as focusing only on wartime stamps, presidential stamps, or transportation themes, is growing in popularity. In fact, demand for stamps featuring George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Benjamin Franklin continues to increase as collectors seek out foundational figures in American history, and this consistent demand means stamps like the 2-cent Washington will always remain valuable in some form. Let's take a closer look at the current market environment as of 2025. The rise of online auctions, hobby-focused platforms like eBay, Hipstamp, Delcamp, and niche Facebook groups have made it easier than ever to buy, sell, and research stamps. This has caused a noticeable increase in prices for genuinely rare stamps, especially those with certification or high-quality images. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Spink, and Robert A. Siegel continue to host events where rare stamps, including misprints and early American issues, can reach eye-watering prices. In one recent example, a misprinted 2-cent Washington with an inverted design fetched over $8,000 due to its rarity and authenticated status. Meanwhile, In online marketplaces, the 1/2 cent Nathan Hale and 2 cent George Washington stamps regularly appear in listings ranging from under $1 to several hundred, depending on condition, presentation, and accompanying documentation. A stamp that is centered perfectly, with clear margins and strong color, graded as VFXF or superb, with certification, will always attract higher prices. Collectors today are also more educated, and many are willing to pay a premium for high-grade stamps that have been authenticated by PSA, PSE, or the American Philatelic Society. For those of you wondering how to determine if your stamp has high market value, here's what you need to look for. First, check the centering. Stamps that are off-center are typically less valuable. Second, examine the perforations around the edges. Clean and intact perforations are a big plus. Third, if it's a mint stamp, inspect the gum on the back. If it's original and untouched, that significantly increases its desirability. Then, consider using a watermark detection fluid or device to identify any hidden watermark, a key feature for classifying older stamps. You should also measure the stamp's perforation using a perforation gauge, as different issues had slightly different perforation patterns that dramatically affect their catalog value. Once you've gathered all this information, compare your findings with a reliable stamp catalog such as the Scott's Standard Postage Stamp Catalog or Stanley Gibbons. Even better, consider sending your stamp for grading and certification if you believe it might be a rare type. That certificate can dramatically boost the confidence of buyers and push your stamp into a much higher price range. At the heart of all this is one simple truth: stamp collecting is a journey that rewards patience, knowledge, and attention to detail. Whether you're holding onto a simple half-cent stamp from the 1920s or a bold red 2-cent Washington from a century ago, you're holding a piece of history. And as markets fluctuate, historical collectibles, including stamps, have become increasingly attractive as alternative investments. But even beyond monetary value, each stamp tells a story. The Nathan Hale stamp tells the story of American sacrifice and courage, and the 2-cent Washington stamp speaks of leadership, revolution, and the birth of a nation. These are not just stamps, they are art, memory, legacy, and connection to the past. They carry messages not only from sender to receiver, but also from one generation to the next. So before you toss away that old album or dismiss those stamps as worthless, take another look. You might be surprised by the value hiding in plain sight. Next up, the 2-cent Arbor Day stamp, issued in 1932. This stunning deep carmine red issue was created to honor the 60th anniversary of Arbor Day, a celebration that began in 1872 in Nebraska and eventually grew into a nationwide tradition of planting trees, promoting environmental awareness, and encouraging communities to take care of the land for future generations. The stamp's artwork is a gentle masterpiece. It depicts two young children, a boy and a girl, planting a small tree together, surrounded by tall, arched branches that frame the design like a natural cathedral, suggesting growth, protection, and shared responsibility. And above them the title, Arbor Day, is proudly carved in bold uppercase type, with 1872 to 1932 engraved beneath their feet, clearly marking the passage of time and the enduring message of this important civic movement. At first glance, the stamp may seem simple, but the depth of meaning it carries is extraordinary. It symbolizes more than a holiday. It stands for a cultural philosophy that believes in nurturing the earth, educating youth, and thinking long-term for the benefit of both people and planet. And during the time of its release, in the heart of the Great Depression, this stamp was a quiet encouragement to Americans struggling through economic hardship, reminding them that even the smallest act, like planting a tree, could offer hope, purpose, and beauty for generations to come. In philatelic terms, this 2-cent Arbor Day issue is a favorite among collectors of U.S. commemoratives from the 1930s, environmental themes, youth and education topics, or stamps that promote civic engagement. And while it was printed in large quantities and is relatively accessible, its cultural and thematic value far outweighs its basic market price. As of 2025, its value in the collector's world varies depending on several key details. A used example with a clear circular date postmark may be worth between $1 and $3, while a mint-hinged version can often fetch between $4 and $10, but the more desirable pieces are those that are mint-never hinged, with crisp, vibrant color, excellent centering, and clean gum. Those can command prices in the range of $20 to $50 depending on condition and source, and even more when accompanied by certification or provenance. First day covers, particularly those canceled on April 22, 1932, in Nebraska City, the birthplace of Arbor Day, are highly collectible and may sell for anywhere from $25 to $100, especially if they feature ornate engraved cachets or special commemorative envelopes, and full plate blocks, which show the printer's plate number and include 4 connected stamps. are also valuable and sought after by serious philatelists who build complete sets or display collections. Beyond that, there are collectors who treasure this stamp not for its monetary value but for its emotional and educational symbolism. It represents innocence, responsibility, and the belief that even the smallest citizens, children, can be part of building a better world, and that message, especially in today's world of environmental urgency, feels more relevant than ever before. In many ways, this stamp was ahead of its time, delivering a message of sustainability and environmental stewardship nearly a century before climate change became a global priority, and so today, it lives on not only in albums and auction catalogs, but in the hearts of collectors who recognize its timeless beauty and the values it quietly represents. The engraving technique used to produce this stamp was also noteworthy: sharp, fine lines typical of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, with a deep richness in the red ink that, when well preserved, still looks vibrant even after nearly 100 years. Philatelists around the world, including those outside the US, often include this stamp in thematic albums related to nature, education, or historic commemoratives, and it is frequently used in exhibits or competitions to showcase stamps that connect history with cultural progress. For beginners, it's an ideal gateway stamp, inexpensive enough to be acquired easily, yet meaningful enough to hold a special place in any collection. And for experienced collectors, it serves as a reminder that not all great stamps are defined by rarity or error. Sometimes, a truly great stamp is one that speaks softly, clearly, and sincerely to the values we share as people. In today's marketplace, where collectibles are being digitized and physical treasures are gaining renewed importance, stamps like the Arbor Day 2-cent issue have become even more appealing. They are physical proof of ideas, values, and social movements, held in the palm of your hand. Collecting this stamp is more than ownership, it is participation in a legacy, a quiet act of preserving something good, thoughtful, and beautifully made. So whether you find it tucked into a forgotten envelope, mounted in an album passed down from a grandparent, or displayed proudly in a showcase of 20th century Americana, pause to appreciate it, check the centering, feel the paper, examine the engraving, read the dates, and remember the purpose it served and still serves. It might be worth a few dollars on the market, but its real value is in the story it tells and the values it reminds us of: cooperation, sustainability, education, and love for nature. And that is why, nearly 100 years later, this humble red stamp with 2 children and a tree remains one of the most important commemoratives ever issued in the United States. Thank you for joining me on this in-depth journey through time and meaning here on Stamps Old World UK. If you enjoyed this exploration and want more long-form insights into the world of rare stamps, commemorative issues, hidden gems, and current market prices, make sure to subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon for updates, and join our community of collectors, historians, and lovers of vintage paper treasures. Until next time, keep collecting, keep discovering, and keep history alive, one beautiful stamp at a time.